In one of my previous videos, I did talk about why I had this pond out here. Basically, it helps keep my plants healthy. It has lots of good stuff in the water, so I don't have to worry about fertilizing quite so much. But it is lacking in certain nutrients and minerals, such as calcium and magnesium. A lot of studies suggest that the presence of calcium helps build thicker, stronger cell walls in your plants, whereas magnesium helps the production of chlorophyll. Having both of these things in your water is really important for these guys, especially vandas. They're very warm-growing plants, need extra supplementation because they tend to grow more quickly. So it's useful to go ahead and make sure that you give them everything they need to help them grow like crazy and be nice and healthy. Whether or not you need to supplement calcium really depends on your water. The best way to find out is to go ahead and have it tested. You can send it off to, there's lots of different places that will analyze your water for you. I know that my water has an okay amount of calcium, but it is very low in magnesium. So this is why I supplement. Places, I believe Florida also has high calcium but low magnesium. So you can combat this by using Epsom salts. But the amount you need is, there's a lot of variabilities involved. So really, you just use a little bit regularly. Of course, there's other obvious ways to know whether or not you need to supplement, and that's by looking at your plants. With cattleyas, they will tend to get black spotting on their newer growth, and sometimes that's confused with black rot. But it's not black rot, it's just simply they need a little bit more nutrient. Calcium does not transport well to older growth. So you generally will see those deficiencies on your newer growth first. It goes from your roots, you water it in through the roots, and it's transported up into new growth. Magnesium, on the other hand, is different. That you see in the older growth before the new growth. And with vandas, sometimes you can see it with the purpling right there in the apexes where your leaves are. There's sometimes a purpley discoloration, or even just a lighter green, very thin line that runs just below where the leaves intersect each other. And that is usually indicative of a magnesium deficiency. It's most important to go ahead and use your supplements, your calcium, magnesium, when your orchids are in their most active growth state. With my cattleyas, I tend to start making sure I supplement right around the time their new root tips get fairly long, start to dig back down into the gravel. But this time of year, I give a trace amount of calcium all winter because the lighting is weaker and they need that extra boost for their cell walls and for their chlorophyll production. The more chlorophyll production they have, then the better they're going to be at receiving sunlight and absorbing it. And thanks to the legalization of marijuana in many places in the United States, there are more and more options becoming available to treat deficiencies in plants. Even though they're made for hydroponics, a lot of them still work very well for orchids because they're not sitting in soil most of the time, depending on your orchids. But this is what I use, particularly for my vandas and cattleyas. Really, I use this for everything. But this was what I have found to work the best for the cattleyas and vandas. So they have a little chart on the back to tell you how much to use. Since they're orchids, I always reduce things by around 50% just to be safe. But there was a time when I wasn't so cautious, and it didn't occur to me to do that because this was made for hydroponics where things are much more diluted and usually more stable and safe. And it wasn't a problem. But this time of year, my vandas are not growing very much, not super quick, so they only get about a half dose. Today's the exception. They get close to a full dose, roughly a tablespoon, for about 3 gallons. This is a 3-gallon container that I used to spray everybody down with. They're getting a full dose today because it has been cold here, and my grow space has been between 45 and 52 because it's been below 15 degrees outdoors, and I don't like to water very much, if at all, when temperatures are that cool outside. Because of that, you start to get root desiccation, which is something always fighting with Vandas when it's dry and you don't have a lot of humidity. The humidity's fine today, and the heat's much better. But this is a good time to give them the extra calcium because it helps build stronger roots. You can see how things were starting to crack. You don't want that. You want to keep these root tips nice and healthy. And the years when I wasn't using the calcium, I was really struggling a lot more with keeping the roots nice and thick on all of my Vandas. So it really has helped me quite a bit. Hopefully it's something that might be of use to other people. Ultimately, just having the calcium and magnesium supplement, all it's doing is helping you build a stronger and healthier plant that is going to grow faster, should have a much higher resistance to certain diseases, particularly rot, when you have thicker, stronger cell walls. So it's almost an immunity booster, really. Another thing to note, when I was referring earlier to having your water checked to see how much calcium and magnesium you have in it, and how my water is very alkaline with a decent amount of magnesium in it, that doesn't really matter, because if your water is very alkaline, then there's a lot of information out there suggesting that nutrient uptake is inhibited when your pH, that's your alkalinity, is high. So that's another reason I use the water in here, because I can neutralize the pH, and I know that things are going to be absorbed much better by the plants. Having your water tested may seem kind of extreme, but if you're working with plants, maybe like masdevillas that are more sensitive to the chemicals that you use with them, it would be a good idea. Or if you're trying to diagnose something that seems wrong with your plants, if you're like, oh my gosh, I have rot, but then, well, maybe it's calcium, then one way to find out would be to have your water tested, and if there's very low calcium, then there's a good chance that you just need to add some supplements to your watering schedule. But even more importantly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do what you have to do to keep everything nice and healthy. If you have any tips for me or any other ways you like to supplement or a better calcium magnesium fertilizer, let me know in the comments below, and have a great day.